Tension in Kaduna Community as bandits kill 4 captives. Ginger farmers in Kaduna count losses as disease affects production. Dangote refinery commences production of diesel, aviation fuel. On the foreign scene, Democratic Republic of Congo says pullout of UN peacekeepers has started. Hello there and welcome to the news hour on Trust TV. I'm Sagir Ibrahim. Thanks for joining us. And we start the bulletin. There was pandemonium this Saturday morning in Dinata Chiefdom, under Kagarko local government area of Kaduna State, following the execution of 4 captives by kidnappers within the community. Dinata Chiefdom has its headquarters in Tafa town, located along the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway in the area council. A community leader in the area, John Alfa Dogo, said the bandits dragged the 4 captives, 3 females and 1 male, to a location around a former military checkpoint behind Ida Junction of the Buari-Jere SCC road and executed them there. He said the incident took place around 11 p.m. on Friday night when gunshots that were thought to be from security were heard around the location. He said residents of the 2 communities, specifically from Bagie and Panchin villages in the chiefdom, are fleeing in droves towards Buari town as a result of the incident. It was suspected that the bandits carried out the execution following a failed ransom negotiation, according to a resident. Meanwhile, the police from Tafa Division have conveyed the remains of the victims to a nearby hospital around the community. The chief of Dinata, Beatrice James, also confirmed the incident. Also, a 17-year-old herder, Abdul Hamid Ahmed, has been stabbed to death in Nbar community in Bokos local government area of Plateau State. The state chairman of Gan Anla Fulani Development Association, GAFDAN, Garba Abdullahi, and the state president of the Fulbe Youth Development Association, Fuyoda, Umar Yusuf, who confirmed the incident in Jos, the Plateau State capital, on Saturday, said the herder was killed while grazing in the community. He added that the corpse of the deceased was recovered by a personnel of Operation Safe Haven, a security task force maintaining order in the area. The GAFDAN chairman lamented that despite several reports to security agencies, their herders get killed easily, adding that they can barely move around with their cattle for fear of the unexpected. The spokesperson for Operation Safe Haven, Captain Oya James, is yet to confirm the incident. Meanwhile, the groups have called on the security agencies to take drastic measures before the situation gets out of hand. Earlier, I spoke to our reporter in Jos, the Plateau State capital, Ado Musa, and he had these details.
No security agencies has come out to say anything with regard to how he was killed. But according to the leadership, that is one of the persons that went for grazing together with him, he escaped from the attack, and then he reported the incident to the family, where the family then took the matter to Operation Setup, and that is Sector 5, there in Bokos. And soon after he reported the incident, the commander of that Sector 5 now mobilized some personnel and then moved to where the incident occurred. And it was there they were able to recover the corpse of Abdul Hamid and then the cattle.
Okay, now we recorded, unfortunately, during the Yuletide period, attacks in Bokos and some over 20 villages around that area. However, can you tell us what the feeling is right now in those areas, especially with regards to the attacks during Christmas? Yes, we know that there's been a little bit of quiet since after that period, but what do you know so far regarding, especially as this issue happened around the Bokos area?
Honestly, despite the security presence, there has been tension up to this moment. Because like we've always gotten report from this area, they can't move like before. They don't engage in businesses that is between the 2 parties like before. The farmers cannot go to farm as before. The cattle rearers also cannot go to rear their cattle like before. So the fact that we have security presence around those communities, we still have that tension between the warring parties. Everybody is mindful of moving from one place to another. So this is the situation at the moment. This is how they feel, because they keep complaining that they don't have enough security personnel who will be everywhere, like they always say. So I think that is their feeling. They can't move like before. They are not free. They don't live a happy life.
Okay, so restricted movement due to the security situation in the area. But finally, before we let you go, you mentioned earlier that the issue was reported to the Operation Safe Haven. I mean, as at the time you filed the report, it was stated that Captain Oya James, the spokesperson of Operation Safe Haven, is yet to make any statements. Has that changed?
No, he has not said anything up to this moment. I sent him chat. He has not responded, even though he opened it, but he has not also responded.
And clergymen of the United Methodist Church, UMC, that were kidnapped on the 19th of December 2023 have regained their freedom. Announcing their freedom in a statement in Jalingo, the director, Connectional Ministries of the Southern Conference of the United Methodist Church, Reverend Philip Micah Dopa, gave the names of the clergymen as Reverend Elkanah M.K. Ayuba and Reverend Simon D. Ezra. He said the released clerics were among the persons kidnapped in Yoro Local Government Council of Taraba State a few days before last Christmas. The church had earlier threatened to resort to self-defense if both the state and federal governments continued to be lukewarm towards the activities of bandits and kidnappers in Taraba. Although the final amount paid as ransom was not made public, the church had earlier expressed sadness that despite paying 11 million naira to secure the release of the clergymen, the abductors still held them hostage. Reacting to the release of the kidnapped clergy, the Commissioner of Police Taraba State Command, CP Joseph Eribo, said that the police are aware of the situation and they are working to halt the spate of kidnapping for ransom in the state. He advised the church not to embark on any form of protest, but rather give the police useful information that will lead to the arrest of criminal elements, describing the kidnappers as common criminals who live amongst the people. And the federal government has concluded plans to evacuate refugees living in Cameroon, Chad and Niger Republic to communities in Borno State, years after Boko Haram insurgency dislodged them from their ancestral homes. The Federal Commissioner of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, disclosed this during a visit to a satellite city built for refugees of Boko Haram insurgency at Marua in Mafa local government area of Borno State. He said earlier similar satellite cities with sustainable sources of livelihood will be developed across the nation to resettle displaced persons. Visiting Muna IDP camp in Jere local government area, the federal commissioner donated food items and other relief materials to 500 households, including victims of fire outbreaks in the camp. He also visited skills acquisition centers established for the IDPs and the satellite city of Marua, pledging to begin resettlement in the first quarter of 2024. Now, ginger farmers in the southern part of Kaduna State are counting their losses due to a strange disease that affected the production of ginger. According to the farmers, the strange disease not only led to the loss of ginger worth billions of naira, but also affected the economy of the area and rendered thousands of youths jobless. Now, Trust TV's Bello Musa visited some farmers in the affected communities in southern Kaduna and brings this report.
Harvest time is usually a time of joy for farmers as they appreciate their yield, but that is not the case for these ginger farmers whose efforts are almost futile this farming season. I have a 5-hectare farm that is supposed to be produce 500 or 600 bags of ginger, but so far I have less than 5 bags.
I spent almost 100,000 to dig this ginger. The dry ginger that I've got, the back, is 3 bags.
This family cultivates ginger on a 16 hectares farmland, but the disease destroys almost everything. Despite the investment of millions of naira to grow the ginger in their farms, output was nothing compared to what was invested.
We secured a loan that was supposed to be repaid after the harvest, but as it is now, there is no way we will be able to pay back.
I collected loan of 5 million. I don't know what to do right now.
I and my family secured a loan to cultivate the farm. Right now, I don't know where to start from. I can't even pay children's school fees as it stands.
However, efforts in form of research is actually going on to see how we can prevent intergeneration cause of this disease.
Southern Kaduna is the hub of ginger production within and outside Nigeria, as it produces ginger worth billions of naira annually. However, the suspected fungal infection that destroys ginger is affecting the economy of the area.
Every week I used to do about 30 metric tons. But now, look at it. Since from November, this is what I'm able to get because of the diseases that affected the ginger.
We used to clean more than a truck, sometimes almost 2 trucks in the day. Since we started this season, I think we are only having 5 containers now. We cannot survive without ginger. That's the truth about it. That's our oil company.
One of my neighbors slumped and died due to heart attack. When he saw how the disease damaged his ginger, I almost collapsed. On the farm too.
Let farmer continue farming other products so that it not only depend on what? On ginger. Because ginger failed this year, most of the people die.
Ginger production generates employment in Kaduna State, as many youths depend on the business to survive.
Before, we used to process 20 or more bags of ginger, but now, we hardly get even one bag to work on.
In a day, I used to make 4,000 to 10,000 naira, but now I get between 700 to 1,500 naira per day.
We pay them more than 27 million every day. That is laborers, starting from laborers that bring the ginger for loading and offloading, apart from what we pay for trucks.
As farmers are counting losses, experts and middlemen have been suggesting ways to avert a repeat in order to ensure that such losses are not incurred again. From Kafanchan in Jamaa local government area in the southern part of Kaduna State, Bello Musa reporting for Trust TV News.
Thanks to Bello for that report. Now to others, as most Nigerians devise ways of navigating the high cost of living brought about by fuel price increase, a Yobe man, Adamu Ali, has fabricated a battery-powered water pump for irrigation farming. The machine, according to Ali, will cut the cost of buying petrol for watering crops during dry season farming. Trust TV's Beatrice Kuruti takes it from here.
The high cost of petrol is affecting dry season farmers in Potiskum. This has led to poor cultivation with an attendant negative effect on food production due to soaring prices since subsidy on petrol was withdrawn. But Adamu Ali has fabricated a water pump that is powered by a battery to help farmers irrigate their fields. The 21-year-old used mechanical parts like coils, nuts, screws, car fans, and batteries to construct the generator.
Akwai construction sabo, akwai construction din machine, sannan kuma akwai construction din mota ma, da kuma keke ma duka wannan ana construction din su.
I have constructed prototypes of motorcycles, cars and tricycles, but I constructed this particular one because farmers are finding it difficult to cope with the high cost of fuel. The water pump machine lasts more than 3 hours, and you don't need to charge the battery because while it's pumping water, the battery is charging itself. Some farmers who experienced its functionality expressed hope that the water pump will reduce the cost of irrigation. I need support from the government and companies that want to make life easier for farmers. It costs over 100,000 naira to fabricate one machine because getting materials is a challenge for me. I get materials from metal scrap dealers and order for others. It takes weeks to gather what I need to fabricate one.
Gaskiya wannan inji dai gaskiya abun godiya ne sosai.
The battery-powered water pumping machine is a good thing. It has brought us farmers much relief that we can't comprehend. Before we power it with fuel, but now we have a water generator that doesn't use fuel.
Lokacin da ya fara wannan abun muna ga kawai shirme yake yi. Ana mar kallo kamar mahaukaci. Har yanzu haka ma bai da abokai da yawa. Don saboda mene any moment any time.
When he started fabricating things, we saw it as a waste of time. Some of us thought he was unwell. It even made him lose friends because he was always at his workshop. But little did we know that he was creating something great. The battery-powered water pump machine could be a lifesaver for farmers and help boost agriculture across the country. Bitrus Kuruti, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
And the Nigerian Army says farm produce has increased significantly in Zamfara State as a result of troops' effort to provide security to the farmers. The commander of one brigade of the Nigerian Army, Gusau, Brigadier General Sani Ahmed, stated this during a Jumat prayer as part of activities to mark the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day in Gusau, the Zamfara State capital. He pledged that the troops will continue to give their best in fighting security threats bedeviling the country to ensure that Nigeria remains one indivisible entity. Brigadier General Ahmed said soldiers are exposed to danger while escorting farmers to their farms, adding that many have fallen to attacks from criminal elements. The Army chief, however, said the troops are motivated by the appreciation from the people they are protecting and have pledged to lay down their lives to protect defenseless Nigerians from enemies of the country. And as Nigeria approaches the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration on January 15th, Nigerians are united in paying homage to the heroes of the past who made ultimate sacrifices for the unity and prosperity of the nation. In this report, Ibrahim Ismail takes a look at the significance of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Take a look.
Nigeria's fallen heroes and living veterans have played pivotal roles in ensuring the security and unity of the nation over the past decades. They stand as the bedrock of the Nigeria's security and overall sovereignty, reflecting their significant contributions to nation building. Speaking to Trust TV, Nigerians are expressing their appreciation for the efforts of the Nigerian legionnaires. The veterans will be remembered by their resilience, hard work and dedication. They fought wars. They are different and incomparable.
What can I say that they try for the nation? Because to die because of your country, it's a very big thing. So they really try. So the nation and the entire family, there's no suffer at all. Their generation, there's no suffer.
Despite the sacrifices of Nigeria's brave men and women of the armed forces, the reward for putting their life on the line leaves much to be desired. Their concerns echo the challenging welfare conditions of the veterans' families, emphasizing the need for an improved pension scheme to honor the sacrifices made for the nation.
Most of them, it is because of the country that their wives became what they are today. Their children are not being cared for. Their wives are not being cared for. Some of these people have died. Instead of this, the people that hate them, to see how they could work for their whatever to be given to their family, they siphon the money. Most of them don't get their pay. Their wives are just suffering. They don't even look after them again. Whereas they were trying to protect the country and they died in war front or whatever. So they're not cared for.
In commemorating the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, citizens empathize with the fallen heroes and veterans, acknowledging their struggles to navigate the harsh economic conditions in the country. The Armed Forces Remembrance Day, observed annually on January 15th, serves as a symbolic gesture to remember departed compatriots and honor living veterans who have dedicated their lives to the service of the nation. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State on Saturday returned to the state to a rousing welcome after Friday's Supreme Court judgment, which upheld his election victory. The governor was welcomed by a crowd of excited supporters at the airport. Our Trust TV's Dixon Adama was at the airport and sent in this report as presented from our studio.
On standby to welcome the governor were PDP supporters from the 17 local government areas of the state, government functionaries, cultural troops, and other well-wishers. An elated Governor Mutfwang could barely address the surging crowd, however broke into singing. Some supporters who spoke to Trust TV said the Supreme Court victory was well-deserved, hence the rousing welcome.
I am elated, overwhelmingly happy. You can see the reception, people all around. His Excellency couldn't even shake hands because the crowd surrounded him. Plateau is happy. We give thanks to God. We give thanks to the Supreme Court for doing justice to Plateau. May God bless them and keep them.
The arrival of the governor here is a significance that the people of Plateau State are overwhelmed with the judgment. More grace to your elbow. May the Almighty God give him the wisdom so that he will pilot the affairs of Plateau State.
This victory is victory for democracy. It is victory for Plateau State. It is victory for everyone who love development on the plateau. In fact, this is victory for the masses.
It's actually superlative, but it is well earned, it is well deserved. The process was tedious, it was very exacting emotionally and in terms of resources. It's a process that divided the people of a plateau, not only along partisan lines, but along several sociological lines. So at the time the victory ended, if you were in plateau, you would have felt the tension that was around. Everybody was waiting. The process of the legal process was more tedious, was more emotional, was far more sentimental than the electioneering process itself.
Recall that Mutfwang won the 2023 March governorship election, but his closest challenger, Nentawe Yilwadda of the All Progressive Congress APC, challenged the election result in courts on the grounds that the PDP was not qualified to contest the election due to improper constitution of their schools. The PDP won the case at the election tribunal. Then the APC upturned the judgment at the appeal court, but the Supreme Court reversed the judgment of the appeal court and upheld the victory of the governor.
You're watching the news on Trust TV. Here's what's to come up ahead. Tragedy of love in Kano as teenagers die trying to abort an unwanted pregnancy. This and of course more news after the break. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying with us on the News Hour. Let's now take a look at the headlines again. Tension in Kaduna Community as bandits kill 4 captives. Ginger farmers in Kaduna count losses as disease affects production. Moving to other stories now, the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery in Lagos has started production. The largest single train refinery in the world, located in Nigeria's commercial hub, began operations in the early hours of Friday. This followed the delivery of 6 million barrels of crude supply to the refinery. Billed as Africa's largest of its type, the refinery could be a game changer for Nigeria's economy when fully operational by helping end the country's reliance on fuel imports. The initial run will be for the production of diesel and aviation fuel before moving to petrol output. Though one of Africa's largest oil producers and the continent's top economy, Nigeria relies almost totally on imported fuel and diesel because of a lack of refining capacity. As Dangote refinery begins production, the Port Harcourt refinery is also expected to start production soon. And moving on to other stories now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike says his camp has fulfilled every condition parties involved in the political crisis in Rivers State agreed with President Bola Tinubu for the return of peace in the state. The minister stated this during a visit to the Oba of Ogba land in Ogba, Egbema Ndoni local government area of Rivers State, Eze Nnam Obi III on Saturday. Wike, who assured the king of his commitment to peace in the state, also said he is not going to disappoint the traditional ruler. Wike commended Tinubu for his intervention in the political face-off between him and his successor, Governor Siminalayi Fubara. And now I have joining us via phone Mr. Sunday Michael, the business editor for the Media Trust Group, to give us insight towards the commencement of production of fuel and refining of fuel at the Dangote refinery. Mr. Michael, welcome to the News Hour. Now, diesel aviation, that's what the refinery is going to start refining. So let's talk about what a boost in diesel and also aviation fuel supply can do in an economy such as Nigeria's in the current situation.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, Nigerians. It's a whole lot. I mean, we started last year, if you like, we ended 2022 with diesel selling for about 250 naira per liter. And before the end of last year and at about last week, diesel was going for about 1,400 naira per liter. And if you think of the state of power supply in Nigeria, the electric power supply, and the fact that 80-90% of businesses in Nigeria rely on gas and diesel to power business premises or power small business operations or even manufacturing, then you can begin to imagine how much that is important to us. It is also going to start with aviation fuel. You can also imagine what hell Nigerians went through the last month and are still enduring. I mean, it's a one-way flight from Lagos to Abuja was going for about 260,000 naira. That is what would take you, that amount would have given you about 10 flights, just barely over a year and a half ago. And this is squarely down to the price of aviation fuel. So, I mean, there is no single output from that refinery as we speak today that would not greatly impact the Nigerian economy. Okay, so Mr. Michael, with Nigeria being a priority market for the refinery, can you paint a picture of what lies ahead for an economy such as Nigeria that now has an increased local supply of these essential commodities? Just everything we have suffered with fuel import and fuel scarcity has completely dislocated this economy. And to start with, Nigeria in 2022, the 2022 figures are not fully out, spent $28 billion importing fuel. $28 billion. In the first 10 months of 2023, with the removal of fuel imports in June or May, when the president was sworn in, we have done about $12 billion, I beg your pardon, in fuel imports. And in the same 2022, we did about $4 billion of subsidy. This year, even with the removal, we did about $2 billion. So you can imagine all of the amounts that would have gone into several other aspects of our national life to support operations, going into just the importation of fuel. And so if we are able to save just income from that, because we are able to find this fuel locally, and then some of the issues we are seeing today in our foreign exchange market, where simply because of the backlog of our $5 billion, that market is messed up, and the dollar today is selling on an average of about 1,250 naira per dollar. So everything that happens, sort of have a spiral effect on our economy. If we can fix the supply chain issues with fuel in Nigeria, we can remember, Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna are coming up in 2024. If hopefully we are able to do that in line with what we have from the Dangote refinery, we'll be talking about local capacity in the excess of 1 million barrels per day. And this country doesn't need more than 400,000 barrels per day. And we can then sell some of the excesses and also earn foreign exchange. So the multiplier effect is huge. The dislocations we are seeing in our economies will be reduced. and efficiency can improve again. Some of the complaints that we have had with importations will no longer be there because this refinery would be churning out some of the finest quality of fuel and not the type that we have seen that has polluted the environment in recent times. So, I mean, you can go on and on and on and on, and this clearly explains why Nigerians of every strata, whether you're in government or out of government, is excited about this development.
Okay, Mr. Michael, you mentioned quite humongous figures that Nigeria has spent between 2022 to date on importing petroleum products. But then again, what most Nigerians were very interested in knowing was when the Dangote refinery was going to commence refining of petroleum products. But then to their dismay, this might be coming later than sooner. Do we have any information as to why there's been a delay and as to the cause?
I mean, as we speak, they have already started.
Oh, interesting.
Started yesterday. Yeah, so refining is fully in place. Well, you know, refining is a complicated chemical process. It's not something that you just rush into, and that is why they explained that the initial refining will be diesel, and then they will move into aviation fuel because they are closer, diesel and kerosene, and aviation fuel, and then gradually they will break into. So it's called a process of crystallization.
Yes, Mr. Sunday, but what I was saying is that Nigerians are most interested in knowing when refining of petrol itself will commence. That's the PMS, because that's the one that affects them the most. In the statement, it wasn't stated when exactly refining of PMS would commence.
Absolutely. That was not stated, but if you had followed their initial statement when they were looking at achieving this particular stage in December, they had mentioned that within a space of 2 months, petroleum refinery will follow. So it is from this same crew that they will extract petroleum refining. It's not like they have to go through another ceremony. So basically, for us, it's a moment of celebration because in no distant, if we had waited 10 years for this refinery, I'm sure 2 months would not be something Nigerians would worry so much about.
Mr. Michael, now the Dangote refinery has started production. The government also announced towards the end of 2023 that the Port Harcourt refinery has achieved mechanical completion. So expectedly, it might most likely come up soon as well. But with all of these developments, do you think that Nigeria is blowing the right bells and whistles to attract foreign investors? Are we looking attractive right now in the foreign scene?
I mean, what more can be more attractive than a productive economy, you know, than an economy that looks like it has all of the right elements, you know, to support operations. You will recall how how many companies we have lost from this country, largely on account of what they call a harsh operating environment. And that is nothing other than finding it excruciatingly painful to operate in this system. You need to buy your gas or power your machines. Finding raw material is difficult because you can't find forex. Everything is tied to limited inability to attract foreign exchange. And we know how important petroleum products are at the base of our earnings as a country. Today, with these refineries operating, Dangote would now be a net seller of forex. In other words, Dangote will be one of those companies who will have excess forex in their account, and they will sell to the central bank and say, we need Naira to consummate local operations. We have the XYZ amount of dollars. Those are the things that we need, and those are the things that make nations attractive. Because if people want to invest, one of the things they want to be sure of is if they bring in their money and invest, and they make profit, they should be able to repatriate. Today, you know why Emirates and Etihad are not coming into this country? They have sold so much tickets in Naira, and they want to repatriate their dividend, haven't offered service to Nigerians, and they are unable to do so because our central bank cannot find sufficient dollars to give them to repatriate. So ease of entry and exit is one of the things that make you a very attractive destination for foreign investment. So if you have a company as big as the Dangote, you know, attracting dollars to Nigeria from its foreign sales of petroleum products, it can only get better for us as a country and as a bride for investment.
Mr. Sunday Michael, the Group Business Editor for the Media Trust Group, thank you so much for your insights. A million thanks indeed for your insights on the developments as it regards the commencement of refining at the Dangote refinery. Do have a good evening.
Thank you very much. The gratitude is mine.
And the Minister of Works, David Umahi, has assured that all sections of the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano highway will be completed in 24 months. The minister gave the assurance during an inspection of the Abuja-Kaduna section of the highway on Friday. Umahi, who was accompanied by the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, said the government made the new timeline after reaching an agreement with the project contractor, Julius Berger Construction Company. The minister, who had promised to complete the road this year, said the new date followed an unfulfilled promise of the previous government of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who awarded the contract in 2018 with a completion period of 36 months. The road, which would have been completed, dragged on till the end of the government, with only the Kaduna to Zaria section completed from the 3 sections. Now, speaking on this development during the inspection, Umahi blamed the delay on lack of funds, but assured of the government's commitment to complete the road in time.
Very, very serious. 4 kilometers per section is a toll that Beja can do it. And so we are looking at 24 months to finish the project. It can only be Beja that will finish it in 24 months. So, with assured, financial money by the Honorable Minister of Finance, they are reassured and they are going to come back bigger. And they have also done very well. Some people send me text messages commending the Minister of Works for, the palliative done on the road. I want to thank them.
And of course, we have seen what needs to be done on the section 1. The all important 120 kilometers or so between Abuja and Kaduna. Clearly, it's an issue of financing. We have talked about it. And I think all we can say here is that we have come, we have seen, and the commitment of the administration to financing, providing the funding.
The Ogun Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Corps, TRASEC, says an articulated vehicle on Saturday crushed a man to death and injured 3 others in an accident along the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway. The Southwest Area Commander of TRASEC, Adekunle Ajibade, on Saturday said the incident occurred at about 5:06 a.m. Ajibade explained that the vehicle coming from Songota to Lagos lost control due to speeding and rammed into 4 persons waiting to board a bus at toll gate. He added that the incident resulted in the death of a man while 3 others sustained varying degrees of injuries. Ajibade, who cautioned motorists, especially truck drivers, against speeding to prevent avoidable crashes, also reiterated the commitment of the agency to embark on more patrols to check the excesses of drivers and reduce crashes in 2024. Also, residents of Oyo State have commended the priority the state government has placed on funding and equipping the security architecture in its environs in furtherance of its focus on tackling insecurity. Governor Seyi Makinde on Friday stated that he has rolled out 100 security vehicles to 9 security outfits in the state. Here's the report.
Insecurity is a common theme that has permeated the entire country, causing state government to step up effort to complement federal government attempt to maintain law and order. For the second time in 3 months, the Oyo State government is distributing security vehicles to security agencies in the state. These include the Nigerian Police, Amotekun, Operation Burst, Oitman, Nigeria Army, Correctional Service, Nigeria Customs, Immigration Service, and NDLEA. Residents believe these interventions are reaping the desired fruits.
Aspect, they are very, they try. We really thank the government about the security. It's improving, unlike before. Before, there are a lot of incidents being happening here and there in Oyo State, especially in Ibadan. Per se. So, but now we can see the difference. Unlike before, we can see the difference. So, they are really trying their best. And we really thank Governor for the empowerment that has been done but in the aspect of motors that is being distributed to each department of security agents.
On security matter, because the security about some years ago in Oyo State is very rampant, which is all these accused, all these people. But during the time of Seyi Makinde, it's changed, and we see that security is very okay. Both the Amotekun, police, army, and everybody, and the official in Oyo State. We thank God and we pray for the Seyi Makinde that God continue to guide him and be with him for successful journey of another 4 years.
Say about the Oyo State security is our governor, Engineer Oluwaseyi Abiodun Makinde, is really trying on the security for him to provide different kind of vehicle to the workers, so that everything can be functioning well, so that the security will be tight, not to allow robbery and some other stuff like that. I really encourage him to please put more efforts.
Governor Makinde is encouraging citizens to continue to hold his administration accountable and is urging security personnel to maintain the vehicles well while on duty.
These vehicles and the officers and men that you will deploy, I am ready and willing to do more to look after their welfare. It is extremely important. So don't just give the vehicles to them and say go out into the field and keep your state safe and secure. Come back to us on your welfare requirements and we will attend to that.
On behalf of the Inspector General of Police, of the organization I represent, and all other service commanders here, we promise you that we're going to make maximum use to ensure that Oyo State remains the best-ever state in security, and our people shall continue to enjoy the benefits of democracy.
Service commanders are being commended for the leadership and motivation, which has contributed to the positive security outlook in the state when needed. To maintain the positive trend, the governor says his administration is ready and willing to provide support.
And residents in Kwanarmahua in Tofa local government area of Kano State are grieving the tragic death of teenager Amina Balarabe. The incident unfolded this week when Amina's fiancé collaborated with an alleged fake doctor to perform an unsafe abortion. It was reported that Amina's fiancé, who is suspected of being responsible for a pregnancy, took this drastic step in an attempt to conceal the situation. Lubabatu Garba's report on this tragedy is presented from our studio.
The peaceful atmosphere of Kwanarmahua in Tofa local government area was shattered when two young men, Ukasha and Chidera, were apprehended following the tragic demise of pregnant Amina Bala. The husband of the deceased mother, Muhammad Lawan, expressed his distressing revelation. He revealed that Amina had been romantically involved with Ukasha for approximately a year and their wedding date had been fixed. Although Muhammad says he was not aware of the deceased pregnancy until a Hisbah personnel called and informed him about the incident.
Sincerely, I have no idea that the girl was pregnant. I only got to know through one Hisbah operative that the girl and the boy were arrested.
He recounted his attempt to inform Ukasha's parents only to be met with denial regarding their son's involvement in Amina's pregnancy. Amina's mother, Umma, was still grappling with the aftermath of the situation. She expressed profound sorrow over the loss of her daughter, describing her as loving and obedient. Trust TV investigated the whereabouts of the unqualified medical practitioner. On visiting Lambumbanki, the chemist's doors were locked. A nearby shopkeeper, Ado Haruna, shed light on the chemist's previous conduct, stating that there never had been prior issues until the recent abortion case.
This has never happened before. This is the first time this will happen since I came here. He was not selling even cough syrup. This is something destined to happen, and he cannot escape it.
The Kano State Police Command took swift action, arresting Ukasha Mohammed, age 19, and Chidera Ugu, age 24, on Thursday, January 4th. The two have been apprehended for their alleged conspiracy to administer injections and drugs to Amina Balarabe, leading to her tragic and untimely demise.
Let's now join Chiamaka Wafo for Business Update.
The federal government has reassigned the power of attorney for its 40% shareholding in the electricity distribution companies DISCOs from the Bureau of Public Enterprises BPE to the Ministry of Finance Incorporated MOFI MOFI. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, issued an order directing the Board of Directors of the Incorporated to take over ownership, control and management of all equity holdings of the federal government in Nigeria's 11 DISCOs. Edun also instructed MOFI to assume ownership, control and management of all equity holdings of the federal government of Nigeria as contemplated and provided for by law. Acting on the minister's directive, the CEO of Minister of Finance Incorporated, Armstrong Tagang, in a letter to the chairman of the board of directors of the electricity successor companies, stated that the BPE nominee director on the board of directors of this company is withdrawn with immediate effect, and share certificates of the company issued in the name of the BPE are to be immediately cancelled. Vice President Kashim Shettima has revealed that women-led businesses will receive 50% of the anticipated $200 million grant proposed by the National Philanthropic Office NPO for MSME startups. According to a statement by his spokesperson, Stanley Quarter, Shettima announced this on Friday during the inauguration of the Local Implementation Committee of the NPO in Abuja. The NPO, an initiative driven 100% by the private sector with full support from the government, is part of efforts by the tinubu-led federal government to raise alternative funding for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and other vital economic programs through collaboration with the private sector. The office is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring the establishment of 12 industrial value chain hubs and accelerators for startups and small businesses across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. In stocks, a total turnover of 5.719 billion shares worth 88.828 billion naira in 80,064 deals was traded this week by investors on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The financial services industry, measured by volume, led the activity chart. The conglomerates industry followed in second place, while the oil and gas industry finished in third place. The NGX All-Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 4.24% to close the week at 83,042.96 basis points and 45.442 trillion naira respectively. 75 equities appreciated in price during the week, with 23 depreciating, while 57 equities remained unchanged. And in Ghana, it has reached an agreement with external creditors for debt restructuring that was key to its $3 billion credit line with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Facing its worst economic crisis in decades, Ghana agreed to a loan from the International Monetary Fund to help shore up its public finances and better manage its heavy debt load. Last year, Ghana successfully carried out a restructuring of its domestic debt. The restructuring parameters encompass both bilateral and commercial debt, including Eurobonds. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva welcomed Ghana reaching an agreement in principle with the official creditors on a debt treatment consistent with the objectives of the IMF-supported program, which aims to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Wafo.
Thanks to Chiamaka for business. And now away from Nigeria, the withdrawal of UN peacekeepers from the Democratic Republic of Congo has commenced. The foreign minister announced on Saturday, with completion due by the end of the year. DRC called for the withdrawal despite the United Nations' concern about violence in the eastern part of the country. The UN Security Council voted in December to accede to Kinshasa's demand for a gradual pullout of the MONUSCO mission, which had arrived in 1999. Despite a volatile domestic situation, the government had for months been calling for an accelerated withdrawal of the peacekeepers. Kinshasa considers the UN force to be ineffective in protecting civilians from the armed groups and militias that have plagued the eastern DRC for 3 decades. Foreign Minister Christophe Lutundula and MONUSCO Chief Bintu Keita told the press conference in the capital they would work for an exemplary withdrawal. And South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa on Saturday said his African National Congress party would be seeking a decisive victory in this year's national elections, which are slated to be the most highly contested in the country's democratic history. Ramaphosa is looking to win a second term as Africa's most industrialized country prepares to hold its closest poll for 3 decades. Analysts say the ruling ANC is at risk of losing its parliamentary majority for the first time since Nelson Mandela's victory in 1994 ushered in a new era of democracy following decades of apartheid rule. He said the ANC would launch its official elections manifest next month, which would outline the party's aims for the next 5 years. South Africa's economy has struggled to eke out meaningful growth during Ramaphosa's term in office, while the COVID-19 pandemic plunged over 9 million more people into poverty. Record levels of power interruptions as a result of inefficiencies at the ailing state-owned utility Eskom has also irked voters who must contend with poor service delivery and joblessness in addition to power outages. Let's now join Adeni Ajishafe for Sports Update.
Chelsea beat rivals Fulham as Mauricio Pochettino's side won a 12th consecutive Premier League game for the first time all season through Cole Palmer's penalty to secure a 1-0 victory. Host Chelsea were the proactive team outplaying the Cottagers in the first half. A clever pass from Cole Palmer saw Raheem Sterling brought down in the penalty area by Issa Diop, making referee Anthony Taylor point to the spot while Palmer buried the spot key to score his 9th goal since his move from Man City. The result moved Chelsea to 8th on the table, unbeaten their last 19 league home fixtures against Fulham, with 8 points above the bottom 3 in 13th position. And still on football, Super Eagles head coach Jose Pizarro said the team is under pressure to win the AFCON to please Nigerians. Ahead of the opening game against Equatorial Guinea on Sunday, Pizarro said the Eagles will give their best to come out victorious. Super Eagles will log on against Equatorial Guinea's senior national team in Zalag National to conclude the first matches of Group A of the 34th Africa Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire, when both teams clash at the brand new Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Ebimpe by 3 p.m. That's Sport News. I'm Adeni Ajishafe.
And to developments in the African Cup of Nations, AFCON 2023 host Ivory Coast is leading Guinea-Bissau in the opening match of the tournament ongoing at Alassane Ouattara Stadium, Ebimpe. A 4th-minute terrific strike from Seko Fofana puts the Elephants ahead. Fofana receives a low pass from Frankesi on the left of the box, tricks his way through Marcelo Jallo and Moro Rodriguez and bends a powerful right-footed shot inside the far post from the penalty area to beat Guinea-Bissau keeper Oparin Joko, who barely saw it. And that wraps up the news hour on Trust TV. Do well to follow us across all of our social platforms and also join our live stream on YouTube for more news, programs and documentaries. I'm Sagir Ibrahim. Have a good night.